Today, I kind of wanted to talk about forgiveness. So, if you've ever noticed how people who hurt us the most are usually the ones that we trusted the most, right? And if someone out there hasn't been hurt, then I'm probably going to tell you just a liar because everybody's been hurt at some time. And unfortunately, some of us are the ones that's hurt others the most. And I can relate to that because I've made plenty of mistakes. And it's not the strangers that are leaving the deepest scars. It's your friends, it's your family. It's the people who said that they would never do that to us. And then they did. Right. And so today I do want to talk to you about something that sounds nice when you say it, but it's incredibly hard when you have to do it. And that is forgiveness. It's just what it is. Everyone says forgiveness is good. Everyone says it's healthy. And everyone really is going to tell you it's going to give you peace. And that's all true. But nobody talks about the part that comes before forgiveness. And realistically, you're dealing with the anger. You're dealing with the betrayal. And I think betrayal is probably one of just the hardest things you're going to have to deal with because it cuts so deep. But then you deal with sleepless nights because it's got you stressed out. The conversations you just keep replaying in your head 1,000 times, right? And which is something we talked about in the last video. And the times where you say, man, I should have said this. I should have done this. I should have seen it coming, right? How could they have done this to me? And nobody talks about it. Nobody wants to deal with that part, right? Let's get something straight right now. Forgiveness does not mean that what they did to you is okay. You need to understand that. Forgiveness does not mean that you're ever going to trust them again. Forgiveness doesn't mean that you're going to let them back in your life. You may not want anything to do with this person. There's been some people that have been hurt seriously bad. And you forgive because that's what we should be doing. But it doesn't mean that that person's going to come, back into your life. And it doesn't mean you have to pretend that it never happened, because you have to face a reality. So that's just not forgiving. The pretending, that's lying to yourself. That's how people get hurt over and over again. Forgiveness is not saying it's okay that you hurt me. Forgiveness is saying that you don't get to control my life anymore, right? That's really what it's about. You just don't get to control my life anymore. And the truth about holding grudges, which is what unforgiveness is, it may feel like control. It may feel like justice. You may think you're protecting yourself, but really in reality, you're holding a grudge. It's kind of like drinking poison and waiting for the other person to die, right? You just keep drinking it, and you think you're going to kill that other person. Never going to happen. They're living their life. They're not reliving each moment. They're just going about their business and not even thinking about it, right? And you're dealing with this inner turmoil. And it just goes on and on and on. So forgiveness is not for that person. The forgiveness is for you, right? And why it's so hard to forgive is because the anger feels safer than pain. Anger feels strong. Pain feels weak. So instead of saying they hurt me, we say, I hate them. Because we don't want to admit we're hurt, especially if you're a guy. How many guys walk around saying, oh man, you really hurt me. You really hurt me today. We don't say that. You say you're a jerk. You piss me off. You say whatever. But the reality is that, a lot of times you've just been hurt. And the hatred feels powerful to you, but the pain makes you feel helpless. So we really don't want to admit that. And if you never admit that something hurt you, then you can never actually heal from it, right? Do you know what the best disinfectant is on this planet? It's sunlight. Bring things into the light, right? So you admit you were hurt, and admit this stuff. And always remember that forgiveness, it does not always mean reconciliation, right? I need to say that again. Forgiveness doesn't always mean reconciliation. Some people lie to you and they betray you. They manipulate you. they disrespect you, they break your trust over and over again. And sometimes the most mature, healthiest thing you can do is just forgive them, right? And never let them, close to you again. You can forgive someone and set a boundary. You can forgive someone and still say, you don't get access to me anymore, right? It's not happening. This ship has sailed. This dog is not in this fight anymore. And that's not hatred to do that. It's wisdom, right? And so here's a real reason to forgive. Because if you don't, the person who hurt you will control your life forever, right? That's just a fact. The person that'll hurt you, or the person that did hurt you, I'm sorry, is the one who controls your life. They control your mood. They control your trust. They control future relationships, how bitter you become, how angry you become. And forgiveness is really what gives you your life back. It's not revenge. It's not winning the argument. Peace is how you win. When you get so angry with this unforgiveness, don't you just feel wore out? Don't you just like, oh my gosh, I need to chill. I need to get this out of my head. And all this is, and I keep saying this, it takes up so much headspace. It's like you gotta download your brain. And you're getting tired of thinking about it. You're tired of replaying it. You're tired of wishing it never happened. You're tired of carrying that crap with you. Forgiveness is not saying what you did was okay. Forgiveness is saying, I'm done carrying what you did. You don't forgive because they deserve it. You forgive because you deserve the peace. And that peace is for you. And when you think about forgiveness, the one thing that I never, ever am going to be ashamed of, or the thing that I will be very vocal about, is that I believe there's a God in heaven. I believe he has a plan and a purpose for your life. And the reason I do these things is hopefully I, through some of these discussions, that some people will find, a better path, or they'll just gain a little bit of wisdom or whatnot. But the Bible tells us that if we don't forgive, that God's not going to forgive us. And God will sort things out. There's this thing called karma, or some people call it what comes around goes around. The Bible calls it the law of reciprocity. What you sow, you shall reap. Right? Plant tomato seeds, you grow a tomato plant. Plant an orange seed, you grow an orange tree. You don't grow tomato plants from orange seeds. Doesn't happen. So when you don't forgive, you need to sow that forgiveness, because that's what you're going to reap in your life. And that's a big deal. And granted, some things are so horrendous. There's been things in my life and I've said, how could I forgive for that? But when you do, the peace and the freedom that comes is so worth it. All right, guys. Well, thanks for stopping by. Appreciate you hanging out with me. We're really blessed. We've got 50 some subscribers, and we've only been doing this a couple weeks, right? And the whole purpose is just, I want to talk about real things in life. You've got all this junk out there on YouTube and the news and wars and craziness and just insanity. And I want to be someone who can be a voice of logic and reason and hope, and just to help guide people through some of these things that's so hard to deal with in life. So I really appreciate you stopping by. We'll have some more stuff coming out. And if you have some comments, please share them with me. I'd be really encouraged to know if this is helping somebody, or if there's something you want to hear me talk about. Let me know. I got a bunch of stories. Thanks, guys. Till the next time.